Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. When we talk about the short-term surge in oil prices in 2026, triggered by geopolitical tensions, most people immediately think of higher fuel costs, disrupted logistics, or more expensive food delivery. But few realize that an oil supply crisis could also empty the medicine cabinet in your home. This is a little-known fact that the public has long overlooked. The modern pharmaceutical industry is, in essence, an extension of the petrochemical industry. We know that medical consumables and equipment, such as medical gloves, for tubing, syringes, surgical gowns, masks and components in more advanced devices are largely made of plastics and synthetic fibers derived from petroleum. What many people do not know is that there is an extremely deep and inseparable connection between petroleum and modern medications. In fact, petroleum was used as medicine long before it became a major fuel source. Indigenous people in the Americas collected black oil and sold it in markets, claiming it could cure all kinds of ailments. They applied it externally and sometimes took it internally. In 1783, soldiers used this black oil to wash their joints for rheumatism, and some even drank it as a mild laxative. In the modern era, the link is far more fundamental. The overwhelming majority of synthetic drugs, about 99%, depend directly or indirectly on substances derived from petroleum and natural gas. Petroleum supplies not only the base molecules for drug synthesis but also the solvents and catalysts needed in the production process. Key feedstocks such as ethylene, benzene, toluene, and pyridine come from refined petroleum products and form the building blocks of countless medicines. Consider everyday painkillers. Aspirin, one of the most widely used drugs in human history, relies on benzene and p-toluenesulfonic acid from petrochemical sources. Petroleum ether serves as the solvent in its production. Without petroleum, large-scale manufacturing of aspirin would be extremely difficult. Acetaminophen, also known as paracetamol, requires acetaldehyde and ethyl acetate, both derived from petrochemicals. Antihistamines such as loratadine depend on a full suite of petrochemical ingredients including toluene, pyridine, and tetrahydrofuran. Vitamins tell a similar story. The production of synthetic vitamin A and vitamin E relies heavily on petroleum cracking products. Roughly 80% of the world's vitamin E is made through chemical synthesis, with isoprene from petroleum cracking as a key raw material. About 90% of global vitamin A production capacity is controlled by major chemical companies, and the process depends on propylene and ethylene. While vitamin C is mainly produced by fermentation, petroleum-based solvents like acetone are still essential during crystallization and extraction. Antibiotics, cardiovascular drugs, and anti-cancer medicines are equally dependent. The manufacture of sulfonamides, penicillin, and cephalosporins relies on petrochemical solvents such as benzene, liquid ammonia, butyl acetate, and dichloromethane. Sulfonamides, those broad-spectrum and inexpensive antibacterial drugs, use benzene and liquid ammonia as raw materials. In penicillin production, butyl acetate is critical for extracting the core nucleus known as 6-APA. For cephalosporins, dichloromethane and acetonitrile remain the most cost-effective solvents for purifying the intermediate 7-ACA, with no viable alternatives at industrial scale. Anti-cancer chemotherapy drugs such as paclitaxel and the platinum-based medicines cisplatin and carboplatin consume large volumes of organic solvents like benzene and trimethylchlorosilane during their semi-synthetic production. Even the final stages of drug preparation depend on petroleum. Mineral oil and paraffin bases used in ointments and skincare products are refined from crude oil. Tablet coatings, capsule shells, and bases like petroleum jelly are essentially petroleum derivatives. The lipid nanoparticles, or LNPs, that carry mRNA in cutting-edge vaccines also require petrochemical building blocks for their synthesis. Packaging and transportation add another layer. Medicines need moisture-proof and light-protective packaging such as blister packs and plastic bottles, all made from petrochemical plastics. Maintaining drug efficacy during shipping often requires petroleum-powered cold chain logistics to keep temperatures stable. Without the cheap and stable carbon chain molecules supplied by petroleum, modern medicine would regress to an era relying almost entirely on extracts from plants and animals. Not only would the variety of available medicines shrink dramatically, but prices would become prohibitively expensive. Because pharmaceutical manufacturing depends so heavily on petrochemical raw materials, fluctuations in oil prices directly affect the cost of medicines and medical supplies. Rising international oil prices increase the cost of active pharmaceutical ingredients, including substances such as calcium pantothenate, vitamins, isobutyraldehyde, and acrylonitrile. Historical experience shows how quickly energy market turmoil spreads to the pharmaceutical supply chain. In early 2026, geopolitical conflict brought this vulnerability into sharp focus. On February 28, the United States and Israel launched joint military strikes against Iran. In response, Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global oil shipments. The resulting disruptions rippled through the pharmaceutical industry. A key example involved helium. Qatar, the world's second-largest producer of helium, saw its output threatened after Iran attacked Qatar's industrial city on March 18. Helium is essential for cooling MRI equipment worldwide, and the uncertainty created serious concerns for hospitals. Israel, which controls more than 30% of global bromine production capacity, faced supply issues that affected core synthetic intermediates used in sedatives, antihistamines, and certain antibiotics. Iran accounts for roughly 18% of global methanol production. As oil and gas prices surged by as much as 60% at their peak, sharp increases in methanol and naphtha prices squeezed profit margins for vitamins, hormone products, and generic drugs. In a short period, global vitamin prices rose by around 70%. The crisis forced multinational pharmaceutical companies to re-examine their reliance on single-source production regions. Many began accelerating plans to relocate active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturing back to domestic markets or more politically stable areas. At present, key upstream raw materials such as benzene, ethylene, and propylene still lack economically viable alternatives outside the laboratory. This means energy security and human health security are now deeply intertwined. The energy volatility triggered by the 2026 geopolitical tensions exposed the fragility of the global pharmaceutical supply chain. Every fluctuation in oil supply travels through complex industrial networks and eventually reaches the medicine bottles used by ordinary people around the world. As nations discuss the transition to new energy sources, the conversation must go beyond electric vehicles. We should also ask a more fundamental question: how can the pharmaceutical industry, so vital to human survival, build a more resilient future that does not depend so completely on fossil energy? This interdependence reminds us that oil is not just about transportation or industry. It quietly supports the medicines that keep us healthy and the systems that keep us alive. Understanding this connection may help societies prepare better for future shocks and invest wisely in the technologies that will secure both energy and health in the decades ahead. That's all for today. If you found this content interesting and helpful, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.